Hi all, this is Maria and welcome to my studio. Today's project is this pretty fall acorn. I hope you enjoy this. Let's go ahead and get started. The tools and materials we'll use are my regular dotting set. I use these crochet hooks and a set of nail dotters, and of course I'll give you the millimeter so you can convert to the tool set that you do. And also remember to click the show more button in the description so you can see all the tools and materials listed. For the paint, I'll be using DecoArt Americana Cranberry Wine, Burnt Orange, Bright Orange, Saffron Yellow, Evergreen, Hauser Medium Green, Hauser Light Green, and I'll be using the DecoArt Dazzling Metallic Splendid Gold. For the background, I used milk chocolate, and for another accent color, the Dazzling Metallics Rich Espresso. These are great colors. I hope you enjoy them. I'm also going to try out and do a little review of this Soline mechanical pencil. It's a ceramic lead pencil. It comes in a variety of colors of lead for dark or light. It's meant for fabrics, but I'm going to try it out, so we'll see how it works. I have this wood cutout from the Dollar Tree that I've prepped. I've covered it with a couple of coats of matte varnish. I've sanded it. I'll use the Artuli marker, and then I'll be using the DecoArt DuraClear in matte and DuraClear in satin. Now my board, as I mentioned, has been prepped, and I've also done the base coat with the milk chocolate. And I want to thank all of you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. If you enjoy these videos, please encourage me by subscribing, liking, and commenting. I really appreciate it. So to get started with this, I'm going to find the center. So I've got my ruler, and I've got this Soline mechanical pencil. It's got ceramic lead, so I'm intrigued by that to see how that's going to work. And I'll just find the center. This acorn is not entirely symmetrical, so it's likely that if you have one similar to this, it's likely not to be symmetrical, but I'm going to do my best to find the center, and I'll just draw my center line. And I am liking this pencil so far. It's a really fine line, so I really appreciate that. And then I'm going to be using my stencil set. This is the mandala shape stencil set. I'm just going to look through these and find a shape that I like. I like that little pointy shape. That one's too big. The other one's a little too small, so I think I'll use this one. And I'm actually going to use it to create a single shape. I'll just use the stencil twice. I'll flip it around. So I've drawn it once, and then I'll flip it around and draw it again. And I'm kind of trying to simulate the top of an acorn, so it's kind of looking like an arabesque type of shape to me, or similar to that, and it's going to be tiled, so I'll use that same shape just in smaller sizes all the way across and around the top of that, the top of the acorn. So to get my next size, I'm just going to move it over and butt it up to the previous one, but I'm going to move it up slightly above that line so that I can make this a slightly smaller shape. And I had a little glitch. So this mechanical pencil does come with a polymer eraser, so that worked good. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, and then I'm just going to redraw it. And then when I flip this over, you'll see that I drop it down below the line, the same amount as I went above the line. I hope that makes sense, to get a smaller overall shape. It's really easy to use these stencils to create any number of shapes that you like. So if you have these, this is a good project for using them. And then I've bumped it up a little bit to get a next smaller size. See how they're decreasing in size. And I keep drawing even though it's going to fall off the edge. That's okay. It gives kind of a seamless look that way. And I'll just keep going all the way across. I'm loving these fine lines. I think that's really nice. I'm hoping that when I actually have to take it off, it comes off nicely. I did a test and it looked good, but you never know until you finish the piece. So, oh, little boo-boo. Let me keep making those shapes. Flip it over, line it up. There we go. And now I'm going to continue making the same pattern all the way up the top to the top of this acorn. And it's the same technique. I'm putting down my first shape, and then I'll flip it over and line it up and put the top part of the shape on. And this is going to give me that tiled look, that arabesque tiled look. And see how easy this is with the stencil to really get that looking nice. And I'll finish off the very last row. Again, these are falling off the edge. Okay, and that finishes my pattern for the top. Now for the bottom, I'm going to follow the arch up with a variety of colors, sort of a gradient fade with the different colors. You'll see I've got 4 there, but in the end I only used the evergreen because it was really close to the other color. I'm using my P16 11.5 millimeter crochet hook to get my first set of dots down. And I'm going to graduate these dots. I'll do exactly the same, start at the center line and then move up the edge. And I think I've got probably a center and then 4 or 3, it looks like, of the P16 11.5 millimeter. And now I'm dropping down to the N15 10 millimeter to start to decrease my sizes as I go up around the curve of this acorn. I've moved down to the L11 8 millimeter. And I'm just going to continue up the side. And this will be a repeating pattern that I use for each of the rows, just decreasing the size of tools. Now I'm using the K10.5 6.5 millimeter to go up a few. That's how it's looking so far. Now I'm using the I9 5.5 millimeter, just keep decreasing those. And this will be a very repetitive design as we go up the acorn from the bottom up. Now I've moved down to my G6 4 millimeter. And I'm only going to go up as far as the lines that I made. You can see that what I'm going to do in terms of my pattern is I'm going to put 2 rows of each color. So that's 2 rows of the evergreen following the same pattern of decreasing, and then 2 rows of the Hauser medium green. And as I need to, I'm just kind of looking at how much space I have and decreasing the number of dots that I place. You'll see that here I just did 3 with my P16 and started to decrease. And you can see that I'm only going up as far as the lines, as close to the line as I can. I'll show you a little trick in a little bit later in the video for how I'm going to try to snug up close to those to the design. So I've got 2 evergreen, 2 Hauser medium green, and 2 Hauser light green. Now I'm going to go back to the Hauser medium green and just follow the same process of decreasing, putting my largest dot in the center, a couple on either side, and then decreasing as I move up, following that arch. Here's my last couple of rows with the evergreen, and now I couldn't use the P16, so I had to go down in size. I'm actually using the smaller L11 8mm, and then the K 10.5 6.5 millimeter, and then my G6 4mm. So I didn't even use the larger sizes on that upper row just because I didn't have enough room. Now I'm going to try to fill in that little bit of space that I have as best I can. And this is where I said, okay, I need to maybe do something a little different here. So I took the stencil to try to fill in those spaces that I've got there. I took the stencil and cut out some paper. Could use a card if you have a 3x5 card or something like that. I just used regular copy paper. And I'm going to put it down, and I'm going to use the size of tool that I think it will work, and I'm just going to dot right over it. So I'm half on the paper, or partially on the paper, and partially on the acorn, the wood piece. I'm decreasing the size of tool as I have for the rest of the rows. And I just lifted that off, and that actually worked pretty well. So you see I've done it for some of the others. Now I'm taking a nail dotter, and I'm just going to fill in some of the empty space here to bring it all the way up to the pattern, or all the way up to the lines for the tiled pattern at the top. And now I'm ready to start the tiled pieces at the top. And I'm using that Artuli pen. This is in black. It's actually an Artuli marker. And this is in the medium, which is a 3mm. And again, I have all the links and stuff down in the description. And I'm just going to use that marker to outline my little arabesque shapes. I debated with myself when I was at this point of whether I would outline these shapes in gold. I think that would have been really nice, but in the end I thought I needed maybe a little bit darker because the colors that I'm going to use are sort of, they're yellows and in that gold family, and I wasn't sure that the gold would show up well enough, so I decided to go ahead and stick with the black, but it might have been nice with gold too. Or another color if you have a set of markers with another color in it. And that's how the top looks. So I've done all my outlining, and I'm ready now to start dotting within each one of these little tiles. So that's a little look at how it is, and I'm going to flip it over just because it's easier for me. Now I'm going to be taking off all of those lines. I don't need them anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and take them off. I'm using a baby wipe. You can see I get a little bit of the background paint, but the ceramic lead is wiping off very nicely. And as you saw earlier, you could use an eraser as well, but this is faster, and I think covers a bigger area, and I love the way that came off. It's perfect. So this is a tool that I will be continuing to use because I like the fine line. And I'll just take off my mark for the center line there, and I'm all cleaned up. Now I'm starting again on these tiles with the P16, 11.5mm, and the saffron yellow, and I'm going to use it to place my largest dot right in the center of that tile. I'm using, this is the center tile, the first one that we did in the center. Now I'm using the bright orange, and I'm going to put a little crown of 3 dots at the top and at the bottom of this center dot. There's one crown. And there's the second crown. I call it a crown anyway. And now I'm going to walk dots around with my nail dotter. Just however many you can get in that space. I am using the largest of my nail dotters here. And I'll plump up that dot a little bit to take up a little more space and make it look a little bit more uniform. Now I'm using my G6 4mm and the burnt orange on either side of the top dot on that crown and the bottom dot. They're on the same line. And then I'll move to a larger crochet hook to put a top dot of the burnt orange. And I used the M13 9mm, and now I'm walking dots around with a nail dotter to fill up that space. And we'll essentially use the same pattern for each one of the little sections in the top of this acorn. I will have to change out the size of the tool, and you'll have to just pay attention to how much dotting space you have, because we all dot differently. We have different pressure, different consistencies of paint. So just kind of use size of tools that work for you. Now I'm going in with the cranberry orange and a large nail dotter to put a dot at the tip of each one of these petals. And now I'm filling it in using smaller nail dotter. So I have a little dot at the very, very tip of each end of that petal. And I'll just continue to add just a few elements. I'll put some additional dots down to fill up some space. And I just changed out to a really small tool to walk some dots around that burnt orange. And basically I'm just filling in space. I'm just trying to take a look for any blank spaces and fill those in. Okay, going back in, same basic design. Again, I'm just going to change out the size of the tool and how many dots I can walk and that type of thing based on the size, because these are decreasing. So I'm not able to put exactly the same number of dots on each one of these. So let's just watch this for a little bit. Hopefully you get the idea as to how to put this together. Sorry, I've got a neighbor's dog barking, so I'm hoping that's not too distracting. I went down to a smaller size tool for the center dot, and again just the same pattern. This particular tool is really teeny tiny, so it's kind of hard to see those dots. And we'll move into the next one, smaller hook for a smaller size for the central dot. Oops, I used the wrong color. Let me take that off. But didn't like those either. This is where the Q-tip problem I have comes in. All right, now we're going to do this one on the edge, and it's going to fall off. And so you just kind of have to look at the pattern that you've been using and decide how much of it will go on on the board here. So I'm just kind of figuring it out. And that's not looking too bad. That's looking pretty good, actually. And just use as much of the pattern as you can to fill in that space. Okay, now this is how this section looks, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat that all the way across and all the way up. And so you can get a sense of it. So I've already done that, and what I wanted to show you is these very top ones that only have a portion. I kind of reverse engineered it, and I wanted to show you. I'm starting at the top as opposed to starting in the center. I'm starting at the top of that petal shape and putting in that cranberry wine and then going into the burnt orange, and then I'll put the rest of the elements in, just going from the top down to the middle. And I'll just use a really small tool to kind of put the little tip of that yellow center dot. And that's a little close-up of those arabesque type sections. And here's the finished piece. I went ahead and did the top dotting, and I'll give you a closer look at that. And then these are all the Q-tips that I used. I wanted to show it because some people are sensitive about how many they use. This is how many I used in this painting. So, you know, do what you got to do. Let's take a closer look at this top dotting. So for the bottom, I just alternated the top dot with the color of the previous row. So I pulled the row above down, and then I top dotted all of it with the rich espresso, and I think that's got a nice metallic sheen and a little bit of orange detail there. And then at the top, I just used a single color to top dot, and that was the Splendid Gold. And I really think that turned out nicely to accent that look. So I was really pleased with the way that turned out. And in the end, I'm glad I didn't use the gold marker to do the outlining. I think the black looks great. I hope you enjoyed this project. It was a lot of fun. I really had fun doing this fall project. I hope you enjoyed this. Here's a little closer look at the final piece and we'll get a chance to take a little bit of a look at that. And I just added a little curly detail. That's some wire, that's paper covered wire at the top there to give it some little spirals at the top. And we're all finished. I hope you enjoyed this project. Thanks so much for joining me in my studio. I hope you consider subscribing, giving me a thumbs up, leaving me a comment. I really enjoy hearing from you. Thanks so much for joining me in my studio. Take care.